everyone. Welcome. This is Let's Talk Stocks, introducing the students to the stock market. This is our PD webinar for today. Yeah, we're here with Banzai. We encourage you guys to follow us on social media. We do a lot of really fun giveaways, and we do updates about our new products and stuff like that for teachers. So we teach Banzai on most things, but Banzai on Facebook and Banzai Finlit on Pinterest. My name is Mallory. I am the curriculum lead at Banzai.
And I'm Rick. I am a curriculum writer here at Banzai, and I also wrote one of the games that we're going to be talking about today.
Two of the games that we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, today we're going to be going over how you can talk about the stock market in your classroom. We are hoping to make it relevant for Finlit teachers who are really going to dive into this, but also just anyone who's interested in bringing up the stock market in their classroom. We would encourage you guys to chat. Let us know if you have any questions. We have some people standing by to answer. They can also flag it and have us answer it live. So yeah, we encourage you to reach out, let us know. And there will be a PD certificate available at the end of this. If you're watching it live, you'll receive a survey in your email, and the video will be available within about a week to 2 weeks to be able to rewatch if you would like. And if you're watching the video, you should be able to fill out the survey where you're watching it. All right, so let's dig into it. This is part of a graphic from Fidelity's summary of their 2022 Teens and Money study. This was conducted to gather insights into teens' attitudes and behaviors about managing their finances, specifically talking about investing. So if you go over to the top there, it's talking about teens are connected. By 7, many teens have started playing video games. By 10, many have a cell phone and a social media account. And they're using money all the time. 50% are using payment apps, 49% are opening bank accounts, and 39% are getting jobs. So all of this, they're constantly interacting with money. They're starting budgeting. They're doing all these other really important skills and financial skills, but only about 1 in 5 are diving into investing. 55% say investing is too confusing. 47% say that it feels out of reach or that it takes too much time or attention. 42% think that teens can't even do it, that they have to wait until they're 18 to start, so they won't, even worry learning about it, whatever, until they get to that point. And then 72% say they have no knowledge of trading stocks and how that even works. A little bit more from this study. Most people aren't even talking about it at this age. Only 34% say their family regularly talks about investing, but 7 in 10 look up to their family members as financial role models. So it's really important to get this conversation going because that's how a lot of these people are, or a lot of our teens are getting their information is from their parents. And if not in the classroom, hopefully we can help supplement that with some of these resources we're going to talk about today. And then finally, they do see it as important, even if they're not getting into it yet. 91% who don't currently invest say they do plan to eventually in the future. And 2 out of 3 plan to start investing before graduating college or even earlier. And then you can see those stats along the side, kind of talking about how they view investing. They expect it to be or already are in it for the long haul when it comes to investing, or they're in it for a quick win and not sure. So one thing that's important is we help teach them how investing can be useful, how they can use it to help build wealth, and why it's important to make sure that they're doing it safely. So why should we teach investing? Well, first of all, it's a really important way to build wealth. It's a powerful way for everyone, and it should be a tool in your financial arsenal, if that's what you want to call it. Investing with little knowledge or with the goal to get quick rich can be extremely dangerous. We've all heard stories of someone who, thought they were going to make it rich and they bet it all on something and it didn't work out. We don't want that to happen to our teens. We want to teach them about how to do this right and do it safely. And then also just learning about the stock market inevitably teaches a bunch of other skills that it can be really helpful.
I mean, investing is one of the more exciting parts of
Yes.
financial literacy, which isn't always the most exciting topic
Yes.
for students.
It can be stressful, it can be overwhelming, or just boring for some students.
But I think the stock market really resonates with
Definitely.
students. It is exciting, and so it's important because there is that interest there to continue to foster that interest, but do it in a way that the students will be able to take advantage of that through their whole life and not get sucked into
Dangerous practices.
get quick schemes and
Yes.
things like that.
Absolutely. So one thing that I already mentioned that we're going to dive in here for a little bit is that skills from the stock market are relevant to any subject. So even if you're not directly teaching financial literacy, or let's say you're a math teacher or even a history teacher and you're like, how could I bring this in? Let's talk about it. So one skill that you can gain from learning about the stock market is critical thinking. You learn how to examine a problem from multiple different areas and perspectives. You also avoid jumping to conclusions. That's when you jump to conclusions is tend to be when you make mistakes in the stock market. So it's important to take a step back, look at the data, actually understand it for yourself, and not just listen to someone who's like, I've got it, I've got the answer, this is how you're going to get rich quick situation. And then, yeah, going along with that, don't give everything you hear, do your own research, stuff like that. So we have an activity that has to do with the stock market that is specifically focused on critical thinking. So you have each student pick a product or business related to your class's focus. Again, if you're a financial literacy teacher, you know, the world's your oyster, you can pick whatever. But let's say you're a science teacher, you can pick a new invention that they're interested in, or a specific company that may be related to your specific aspect of science that you're studying, anything like that. Have them gather data on opinions on that product via interviews with their classmates. You can have them take those interviews home and do them with their parents or their siblings or their neighbors or whoever. And then they're going to track the performance of that stock over time. So it'd be really cool to like do this as one of your first activities in the classroom and then come back and track it all throughout the class and get there at the end. And then finally have them do reflection. Did the opinion and the product's performance actually like line up? Was it something that all of the students in the class really liked, but the stock itself actually performed kind of poorly? And why did they think that would be? What factors were pushing this either good performance or bad performance? Was it because public opinion was really good that, yeah, the stocks are doing really well, or did that not really play a factor into it? And then, yeah, at the end of the day, why do you think it performed the way that it did? Did it, you know, do a good job because, yeah, everybody liked it? Did it not? And what kind of factors were playing into that? And having them write a final essay reflection just really encourages that critical thinking and has them take a deep breath and like be like, okay, why do I think that this worked? And not just, oh yeah, the stock did bad, the stock did good, whatever.
The nice thing with that is there's a lot of historical moments that you can pick
Yes.
from and choose of why different products were successful at different times and how that affected the stocks that you could buy into those products. And I mean, I remember always growing up, like my parents were always like, if I just would have put $1,000 in Apple in
Yeah,
1982,
we'd be rich.
we'd be rich now. That is like, yeah, that is such a strong memory of mine growing up.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, well, the next skill that we're going to talk about is drawing connections. So it's this idea that you can recognize how two seemingly disconnected things can actually impact each other and like look at a situation from a more whole perspective. They can also link their real world experiences with school experiences. So, you know, a lot of the times some students will struggle with, well, why do I need to know this? This doesn't impact me in the real world. This is just school. I'll learn it for the test and then I'll forget it. This gives you a really nice way to be like, well, no, the things that you're learning actually do have real world applications and implications. And then just noticing patterns and how they can impact decisions. So the activity that we have for this one is connecting kind of what you were talking about, historical events to the stock market and the economy. So we encourage you to divide your students into groups and have them research a significant world or US event related to your class. Again, this kind of depends on what you're studying, if you'd like to focus in on something or kind of keep it broad and let them pick what they want. Have them consider why that event happened, how that event impacted the stock market or economy, how the event and economy shifted, like the affected businesses, laws, the average person, how they were actually impacted, things like that. And then once they've picked that and done their studying, you can have them give a presentation to the class and talk about it. So this could be, you know, you could literally talk about like the Great Depression and how stocks fell like that, or it could be something else. It could be wartime. It could be anything. It's kind of taking some of these school topics and relating them to like the real world and how that actually impacted people and kind of helping drive that home. That's like the things that we're learning about aren't just happening in a vacuum. Like these are real world situations that impact the students and also have impacted people before and will impact them in the future. Okay, the last big skill that we're going to talk about is understanding risk and reward. This is a pretty obvious one when it comes to the stock market, but helps them recognize potential risks and rewards, practice weighing options and balancing potential negative outcomes with potential positive outcomes, and then approaching situations with caution and consideration. Obviously, this is super, super important when it comes to the stock market, but it's also just a good life skill to have. And to recognize, particularly when it comes to finances, but also obviously just with everything. So what we're going to encourage you guys to do with this one is to sort of test the edges of risk and reward. And this one's going to play into a game that we're going to talk about later in this, so don't worry too much about that. But you're going to ask your students to assess their personal risk tolerance. So if you were to just, with no prior knowledge, with no anything, would you say that you enjoy, being pretty risky, and rate yourself from a 1 to a 5, and then have them play through the stock market showdown exactly how they would normally, which is the game we're going to go over later. And on the first playthrough, have them do their best to use that personal risk tolerance assessment as a guide. So they would be like, okay, I said that I'm not very risky. I'm going to not choose really any risky stocks this time. I'm just going to try to go with what I feel like my gut would be. And then on their next playthrough, have them move to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So if they weren't very risky, play through it extremely risky. And if they feel like they were pretty risky, play through it extremely risk averse. And kind of notice the differences in how that has the game go for them. In some ways, playing risky might go pretty well for them. In some ways, it's not going to go very well for them. But it's an interesting activity in kind of forcing them to think about risk and how much risk they're willing to take on, and like actually really think about it and focus on it. And then at the end, just have a class discussion and talk about like, how did that impact you? What was more successful? Did it feel really stressful for you to like be going against how you feel like you should be doing, but did it actually turn out better than your first playthrough? Things like that. So now that we've talked about some skills that you can gather from the stock market, we're going to back up just a little bit and talk about some more reasons why it's really important to do this. And one of those things is it's easier than ever to invest. I added a bunch of apps on this screen. Apps make it super easy. They take something that was traditionally maybe out of reach or required a little bit more knowledge or technical know-how, and they just put it in your pocket. So students at any age really can sign up and get going on something. And that can be really good in a lot of ways, but it can also lead to some dangerous options. And we want to make sure that we are preparing our kids to do it in really good ways and be careful with their investing and thoughtful with their investing and not get in over their head or make mistakes. One philosophy that we have here at Banzai is that we let students make mistakes in situations where they are safe to do so. So they can go in on our stock market showdown game and they can choose all the most risky investments and throw all their money in. And if they lose it all, they learned a lot and they got to gain that experience, but they didn't actually lose all of their money. Whereas if the students were to treat some of these apps like a game and go in there and spend a bunch of their money, that has very, very real world consequences, obviously. They may look like a game, they may kind of be styled to look like that, but they're very real. So yeah, it's important to help differentiate that from them, help give them the opportunity to learn these skills, and help make sure that it's safe and productive. So when it comes to keeping them safe and productive, I gathered some of the most common red flags from investor.org. Rick, do you want to read through some of these and go over some of them?
Sure can. So anything that promises that an investment is risk-free or has a guarantee return is always going to be a red flag. A big principle of investing is that it's always going to come with a risk. Even the safest investments in the world could possibly go down, struggle, fail. For a variety of reasons that are outside of your control. And that is just part of investing. Unsolicited pitches, people asking for personal information, people trying to leverage this investment opportunity as a way to get your social security number.
Anyone who shows up to you and says, I have a guaranteed risk-free investment for you should be.
So like emails out of the blue or texts out of the blue. And sometimes that can even be people who come up with these investment opportunities that require a lot of info from you should be flagged red. But maybe they're okay. There's a good chance they're not. There's a lot of reputable sources, financial institutions that you can do your investing through. Being asked to pay for an investment with something like a credit card or a gift card or money wired to a personal account is always going to be a red flag. You want to be able to trace where your money is going and know that is there and that you legally own this investment and it's in your name.
And just pointing out to kids, like maybe to some of us, we're like, well, yeah, obviously, but pointing out like, that's not how investing is done. And so like, don't think that, don't know that. You shouldn't be doing these kind of sketchy back end ways to pay for your investment or pay someone for investing money for you, anything like that.
Investments that isn't licensed, but they're acting like a professional, like they're giving you the information as if they are the de facto standard of that information
Yeah.
without actually having the background of knowing that. Because again, there's going to be plenty of resources of people who are licensed, who know what they're doing,
Yeah.
who legally have to give you the right information. Those are the people who you're going to want to be investing through. And I also think getting tips from a cousin or an uncle or a friend can also sometimes be wary. Do your research. Again, those might be good ideas. They might be nice opportunities to take advantage of, but look at it as don't just don't look a gift horse in the mouth. There's some idiom there.
Right.
That's not the right one. But again, this is a tried and true method of being able to safely invest money and gain wealth. So go through the tried and true methods that have been
Yes.
doing that. And then also everyone is buying it style pitches. Just because it's popular doesn't mean it's going to be the right choice.
Yeah.
And these are often associated with sort of get rich quick things,
Definitely.
or like if you don't do it now, you're going to miss out. And so you have to do it right now.
The pressure.
And then the pressure to do it. Again,
Yes.
there's always going to be various levels of risk of investment, and no matter when you start or when you stop doing it, there shouldn't be this pressure that the only way to be successful is if you do something right now.
Definitely. We had a question from Matthew here. On the previous screen, did those companies need to meet a certain criteria to be included? No. I just grabbed, I think it was the top 15 most used and most common apps. So some of those aren't even apps directed toward teens. That doesn't mean obviously teens won't try to sneak on them and get on them anyways. But no, those were not like the most safe or the most dangerous ones. Those were just like the top 15 most used apps in the US. So yes, if you have any more questions, please continue to put them in the chat. That's great. One more thing we're going to talk about the dangers of investing and things to kind of help your students look out for and be aware of are these four most common investment scams. That's Ponzi and pyramid schemes, investments where the money comes from a steady supply of investors rather than actual gains in the market. So someone is just looking for you to give them your money so that they can put it to someone else, and they can put it to someone else, and yada, yada, yada. That's not actually investing. That's just you giving someone money and hoping it'll eventually trickle back to you as well. Similar to what Rick was talking about just barely, we have boiler room scams, which is essentially just someone trying to get you to invest and using really aggressive, stressful tactics that make you feel like, if I miss out on this, I'll never be rich, or it'll be a huge wasted opportunity and I'll kick myself for the rest of my life. And this opportunity is only available for the next 5 minutes, or, any of those types of scenarios that are really trying to push you to invest right now and do it through me and do all those are instant red flag. Be very aware of those. The other thing that we have is cryptocurrency scams. And that is generally promises of big returns on up and coming crypto, or scammers that demand that you only pay them in crypto. Obviously, there are some safe ways to invest in crypto, but in general, it's just a little bit more of a volatile market.
It's harder to track.
And it's much harder to track. So it's just in general, avoid these ones that are promising like this is the one. If you jump in on this one, it's going to make you rich forever. Because that can just be really dangerous. And then finally, pump and dump schemes. So this is scammers who sort of artificially inflate a stock's price by misleading statements, or getting a bunch of people to jump on it all at once, and then once it's really high, they sell their bit, and then everything else just kind of plummets. So the value of what you actually got is not what they made it seem like it would be or promised that it would be. These are essentially, it kind of all boils down to if someone is really pressuring you to do it and saying that this is the thing you got to do, or else you'll regret it for the rest of your life. It's not really a good way to be thinking about investing. We want to talk about long-term games. We want to talk about, doing careful research and not jumping in. So some things to remember when it comes to the market. Timing the market is far more important than timing the market. It's always going to, maybe not always, 99.9% of the time, it's always going to be better for you to just put your money in and let it have time to grow. And then if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. You may think that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, but there's generally going to be something going on behind the scenes. And then finally, we want to actively differentiate this from gambling. Obviously, both can feel similar. You know, they involve risk, they involve the opportunity to make it big or whatever. But one of them is, you know, dangerously meant to keep you going and losing money, and you're always going to lose to the house and things like that. And then one of them is you carefully calculating and planning for your future.
That over time, you are
Yes.
generally going to statistically be making money over time
Yes,
and not
definitely.
losing money over time. And again, it's not a quick dopamine rush, as
Yes.
fun as that can be, but it is much more financially sound.
Yes. And Amelia also pointed out here, thank you, hidden fees. Yes, those are a big, big issue as well. You may think, oh, I'm getting in this and they're only charging me $20 or whatever. That's great. But then down the line, in order to do something else, you have to pay, you know, this huge amount or whatever. There's obviously a bunch of different ways that that can come in. But
And often, if you're trading a lot of money constantly all the time, trying to always beat the system, you're going to be paying a lot in fees and the handling of that money and
yes,
the middleman in between there. So
definitely. Awesome. Okay, well, great. So now we're going to dive in to some different concepts and some different resources that Banzai has for the various grade levels. So first, we're going to start with elementary. This is obviously where we start things out. So we're going to talk about saving money is an important way to build wealth. You don't always just want to spend everything that you've got. You got to hang on to some of it so that you can use it in the future. That's kind of this original concept that we want to start getting in. And then we want to talk about how income from jobs is not always going to be enough to meet all of someone's needs or wants. It would be great if it was, but some jobs pay more than others. Some jobs are less reliable, things like that. So sometimes you have to look for other ways to sort of build money and build your savings.
and especially needs and wants when you no longer have a job.
Yes, definitely. Yes. And then we're going to talk a little bit about interest. We're going to introduce this idea that like money can grow without you having to do anything. Interest is a way that you do that. So you can put it into a savings account and it's not an investment because it's not a risk or anything, but it is a way for your money to start growing without you necessarily having to do anything. And then once you kind of have those ideas all in your brain, all in their brains, then you can move on to this idea of like, okay, kind of like interest. Investing is a way that you can start to grow money. You put your money into something that you think is going to do really well. And then if they do really well, you can get some of those returns back. We had a question if these slides are going to be available on Teach Banzai. We can absolutely post them if that would be helpful. The video will definitely be available for you to rewatch later. But yeah, if it would be helpful for us to post the slides or send them out in an email to all the attendees or something, we could definitely do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're about to just go into some of the basic resources that we suggest using when talking about Banzai. I know that Terry had a question earlier
Yes.
about she's going to schedule a unit in March. So here's the resources we suggest. It'll be up to you to like either put this all in one day, although I imagine it's more than for one day. Spread this out over several days, or maybe one thing a week, or depending on how you like to do. But these are the major resources we have here at Banzai for the stock market. And a lot of them are pretty new too. So
yeah, definitely. And also some of those activities that we mentioned toward the beginning, you know, you can scale those to work for different ages or different timelines, depending on how you want to do it. So these are our elementary resources. Most of these are articles and calculators, just some things to help introduce them to some of these ideas. We've got an article on saving money and an article that just kind of introduces the idea of investing. And then we have a calculator that lets them see how interest works and allows them to see like, oh, if I put in this much money with this much interest rate or whatever, this is how it will grow. Next, we're going to talk about middle school. So this is where you can start introducing the idea of saving, investing are both key parts of a healthy strategy for building wealth. Again, kind of differentiating between the two, recognizing that saving is sort of putting money away, even if it is gaining interest, it's safe, it's, you know, an emergency fund, it's things like that. Investing is money that you might have to be okay with potentially losing, but that you have a lot of time to regain if you leave it in the market for a long time. So we're going to talk about certificate of deposits, share certificates, sort of level up the power of interest. And those are sort of nice first steps to investing. They give you the chance to, you know, earn slightly more interest, a bigger reward than you would in just a regular savings account. But it's still extremely risk-free because they're protected by FDIC, NCUA, things like that. So to go along with that, we have an article on share certificates and CDs that goes over all of that. And then in our middle school personal finance workbook, we have this activity that differentiates between saving and investing. If you are a teacher with Banzai, the way the Banzai works is we partner with local banks and credit unions who sponsor schools. So if you have a sponsor, You just let us know how many workbooks you want and we will print and ship them to you. If you don't and you want some workbooks, let us know and we will go search for one. But all of these resources are available in digital form as well. So you would be able to, even if you can't get the printed workbooks, you can find them online and print them yourself, or even just print this activity if you want. So yes, they're available for everyone. And it's nice sometimes to have printed stuff for students to do so they're not staring at a screen all day, every day. Okay, great. Next, we're going to move on to high school. And this is where the majority of our resources are focused. And this is also where it kind of becomes the most important and you really start digging your heels into some of these more tough concepts. So we're going to talk about retirement accounts. We're going to talk about how an IRA, a 401k, this is a vital way to plan for your future, build your financial success, things like that. We're also going to talk about how different types of investments come with different levels of risks and potential rewards. And then obviously we're going to get into the stock market, which is one of the biggest things that we're here to do. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment when we get into some of those resources. But first, we're going to talk about retirement. So we have this article in that is geared toward high schoolers called Understanding IRAs. It breaks down, what an IRA is, the importance of it, things like that. And then we've got these two worksheets that help differentiate between a Roth and a traditional, both a 401k and an IRA. Again, helping introduce some of those concepts, some of these words that they may have heard thrown around, but haven't had the chance to really dive into. And then we have this really awesome game that Rick Rick wrote, that's called Retirement, The Elephant in the Room. This one is ideal for 9th through 12th graders. Obviously, if you feel like you've got students that, are ready to learn about this stuff, feel free to use it younger. That's just kind of the grades that we recommend it for. It's got about a 45 to 90 minute play time. And yeah, Rick, do you want to kind of go over the game a little bit?
Sure. So in Retirement, the Elephant in the Room, you start your first real job as an adult in your 20s at a elephant kind of sanctuary, and there's a new elephant born named Dinah the day that you start, and you and Dinah kind of live this life and go
side by side
for 40 years of working at either one sanctuary, or there's actually an option to go to a different sanctuary that might come up depending on kind of which track you get and within the game. And it simulates investing into 401k over the 40 years. You have at different points in the life, about every 5 years or so, you can choose whether to change the percentage of your income that you're investing. You'll get the various raises. And the goal is to try to build up a robust retirement account for you when you retire,
jobs.
kind of in your mid-60s. So again, it's 40 years of simulated retirement. There's some randomness to it. Not every student will have all the same scenarios. Sometimes you can choose to pick up an extra job. This is also where you can invest in a personal IRA account and choose to do that. And sometimes you can max out how much you're investing in your 401k. So it tries to simulate the real ways in which you can affect and manipulate the retirement. There's also 3 kind of investment levels. Obviously, in a real 401k, you'll have a lot of different options that you can talk to your kind of 401k manager about. But here we kind of have a high risk, a middle risk, and a low risk, and that'll affect how well you do over time. It's generally when you're younger, higher risk is can be more profitable.
Yeah.
But as you tend to get older in years, you might want to start putting your investments in a safer place. And again, there's a lot of different outcomes that can happen. It's never quite the same experience twice, and I think it helps again students simulate 40 years of stuff that they could do in a class period.
Definitely. Yeah, so we're not going to go into a ton of detail on this game just because we have so many other things that we're going to dive into. But if you're interested in learning about that, Rick did do one of our Game On webinars, we call them, where we do a really deep dive into the game and, give you a lot more information about it, give you some more tips and tricks and things like that. So that's available if you scan this QR code. You can also view all of our PD webinars at banzai.org/teacher-professional-development. So yeah, that's available now. If you do want to learn more about the retirement game after this or whatever, please feel free.
Or just jump in and play it on your Banzai account.
Yes.
I think is a great way to experience it.
Yes.
So.
And yeah, if we have anyone new to Banzai, we can go over some of the stuff about Banzai specifically, but like we've had a couple questions about, do the games track progress? Can they save and come back later? Absolutely. They can jump in and out at any time and it will keep up with where they were. They're all what's the word that I'm looking for? Progress is tracked on the teacher side as well. So you can see at what point they're at in game. You can also review some of their choices that they made and things like that. And then each game has an automatically graded pre and post test. So you can kind of gauge where they were starting and then where they ended and how much they learned. And now we're going to get into kind of the big thing that we're talking about today, this game that we just released, I think the beginning of this month. So it's still super new and exciting. This is Stock Market Showdown. This is another game that Rick wrote. And yeah, this one, again, is ideal for 9th through 12th graders. But if you feel like your middle schoolers will, be up for it, please feel free. We just kind of give a recommendation to help you know kind of a basis of where to start it. This one has about a 40 to 60 minute playtime. And the nice thing about this one is you can do it all once and they'll, learn a lot, but it's really built with a lot of randomization and things like that in so that it's really easy and kind of encouraged to play through it multiple times and see what happens. Before we get into the game specifically, I want to talk about some of the Jumpstart national standards covered in the Stock Market Showdown game. I won't necessarily read through all of these because that's a lot of just reading text on the slide. But basically we talk about, risk tolerance, what's going to build someone's risk tolerance. You can expect higher rates of return when you invest in something riskier, but then also there's a higher chance that it could go wrong. And so how are you going to be willing to balance that? What impacts the changes of financial assets and your investments and things like that. And then also just the importance of diversification, investing with a time horizon, all of that good jazz. So, Rick, do you want to introduce the game, kind of some of the
Sure can.
storyline?
So this is Stock Market Showdown. So in it, you're in a competitive stock market high school kind of team that you're on. It's
Yeah,
your first.
think of it like the mathletes, kind of.
And so the beginning section is like your first day, learning about the basics of the stock market. So it introduces you to concepts such as buying and selling, stock market graphs, what does it mean to earn money, all to encourage the students to have set a goal. They're given a goal, and it's all about reaching the goal, not so much about earning as much as you possibly can, which can often encourage more risky investments because they tend to jump higher. And if you just hit it right, you could make a lot more than the standard, but you're not rewarded for making any more than the goal that you're given.
Yeah.
So that encourages things like just staying in over time, not buying and selling too much. Although you do want to kind of dump stocks you know are going to be bad and invest in stocks are going to be good. So there's a lot of nuance to it. So you end up playing through. Here's an example of buying a stock. You'll through several times, through several rounds, and we're actually going to play around later.
Yeah.
You'll be given several stocks to invest in. Those will be progress over 4 years, and each kind of year you can decide whether to buy or to sell more stocks.
So the idea is that these students, right, are on this team and they get to use this in-game app. So it's not like an actual app that they download, but they're using this in-game app where they can buy stocks. And, it's made to look like what these actual apps look like. And it gives them the information that these apps would give them and things like that. And they get to kind of simulate this experience of what it would be like. And they get some guidance from their teachers or guidance from their classmates. You have one classmate that's super go all in, be the risk person, doesn't matter. And then you have one that's a lot more like, let's think about this carefully. And so you have to kind of balance their advice and things like that. Students also get exposed to all of these terms while they're going in it kind of naturally as they're learning, but they also have the chance to kind of back up and be like, okay, let's talk about some of these things. Like, do you understand what all these things are? In this specific one, it's them getting ready for their competition. And they're like, oh no, do I know what I'm doing? Am I prepared for it? So it gives them the chance to kind of take the step back and be like, yeah, let's go over all these things. Let's make sure you understand what's coming. And then kind of like Rick said, they enter this competition. So this screenshot is them like all of the teams getting their points. And it's like, oh, yay, the bull market bulls, which is one of the ones you're competing with, got this much. And the dividend dolphins got this much. So
you're the walruses.
We're the walruses. What, Wall Street walruses?
Wall Street walruses.
Wall Street walruses, that's it. So yeah, the idea is that they're competing and it's still a game, but it's not necessarily about earning the most money and making the most trades and making the best timing and anything like that. So we are going to jump over to the actual game now, and I'm going to let Rick kind of take over. This specific screenshot starts just a little ways past where we were before. Yep, this last screenshot that I grabbed, right, it was right here. So yeah, why don't you introduce it? We're in the middle of the competition right now.
So this is the second scenario that you are given. Mallory did really good in the first scenario. She got 100 out of 100 points. That means she hit the goal that she was given. And so the host of the game is giving everybody, so they're going to start with $10,000, and there's a goal of getting $11,500 by the end of the scenario. So we'll have 4 opportunities to buy and sell stocks. And our goal is to get to, make 15% over the 4 years. So we're just going to start it and see how it goes. So now this is all random, so I never quite know exactly how everything is going to be or what everything is going to do.
We did that on purpose because we don't want the students to just play through it again and be like, oh, well, I remember that eco energy solutions or whatever was by far the best choice, so I'm just going to pick that and then I'll be able to win. We still want them to have to research and look carefully and look at how this stock is doing in this time, or it'll be different companies or anything like that.
So right now I'm looking at some of these. Some of these are quite expensive. Let's just open one. This one, QCOM. That one's been doing good. It did a really good this past year. And it hasn't been too wildly volatile, even for how good it's doing. It's a mutual fund, and so that means it's spread over several stocks. So those generally are going to be a little bit safer. So I say let's buy, I don't know, put half of our thing in this guy. I think that should be good. Now let's look at this security fund. I really didn't do too bad. A little bit more volatile. And then I'm just going to check out some of these other ones and just see. That one is trending pretty. Man, this hasn't been a great year.
Yeah, we had some bad years here.
These guys. Ooh, that one took a big hit. I would say these ones are doing pretty good.
That seems the most.
They don't seem too wild. So I'm just going to throw the rest of it. We'll see how we do. So yeah, there's our friends are suggesting we're doing good. You can
see there down there at the bottom if you want. Yeah. That's how much money we have invested, and that's out of our goal, how much we have at the moment, and then we have $6.27 left. That's not enough for us to buy anything, so that's just kind of our leftover money.
So I'm saying I'm done. Let's move on.
Our host is going to tell us. Okay, great.
Okay, how did we do? Oh, we did actually really good. So we made 8% on this guy and 6% on this guy. Everyone did pretty good this year, but these seem to be strong. And if it's doing well and it's staying steady, the best advice is just to let's just stick with it and keep going. I've already noticed one bug. Let's see if you guys can see the bug. That's I've noticed in this. So we're gonna go. They give you a rundown in between each round, and so at the end of this first round, we are doing the best with $10,722, and here's how our competitors are doing. And let's see how we did this second round. Oh, still doing good. Okay, Mallory, think we should sell any or
let's take a risk.
Okay.
I say let's sell. Oh, this one's doing so well. I'm gonna sell it anyways.
Okay.
I'm selling it all. It's high. I'm selling while it's high, and I'm gonna buy this one because I feel like it's their time.
Okay, let's see.
I feel like they're gonna take off on this next one, and I just have a good feeling about it.
All right. So again, after that round, we are still doing pretty good. All right, now we're going to look at the final results of how things are. Our risk didn't pay off great, but it didn't do too bad. Yeah. And again, that is the kind of stuff you're going to expect with the stock market. Not everything is going to do good. I mean, it came really close to making some money. Like, it is just
We almost made a little
Yeah.
bit. We
But
seemed
it turns
really
out
fast.
these two just happen to be the ones that are
Nice. Yeah,
have
like
been
that.
really steady growing. So we almost made it. Well, this goal says 1200. It should, really should say 1150.
Ah.
I need to go back and change that. But we did the best out of everyone. Poor capybaras,
Yeah, they had a bad
really had a bad year.
4 years or whatever it is.
So let's check out the overall scores.
We'll get our results. Those capybaras didn't have a great time.
And their total is 142. Third place, the Bulls with 166. These are between the two rounds. Second place, the Dolphins with 184. And I got 195 points. So we're only 5 points away from the top highest score we could have got. So we did pretty good.
Oh, even with my risk.
Even with some risk we took, we still managed to pull it out there in the end.
Yeah, so this is kind of, obviously the game continues on. There's a lot of intro before this. There's some more after this where they get to continue the competition, but that kind of gives you an idea of what the game itself looks like. We had a couple questions about where to find this, so I will just showcase that for you real quick. So this is within the student view. When students log in, this is what they'll see. You can customize which courses are available to them, but if you don't customize anything, they'll see everything, and this is what's on there. So Stock Market Showdown specifically is in high school personal finance, so they'll click on here, you see our retirement game that we were talking about before, and Stock Market Showdown is right here. So they can enter it, and then we've got our pre-test and post-test, which I've already done. And then this is my current playthrough of the stock market game. Once I finish it, I do have the opportunity to take it again. On the teacher side, you can also allow them to retake these pre and post tests again if you would like to. But yeah, so that's where to find those. Great. If you guys have any questions about that game specifically, feel free to drop it in the chat or anything else. But yeah, for now, we are going to jump back to our slides. So another thing that comes along with this Stock Market Showdown game is we have our Stock Market Showdown kickoff slides. What's really nice about these, we do them for our new games, is they allow you to introduce the game to your students. It's especially helpful if it's the first time that you ever used a Banzai game. So it'll go through what they need to do. It gives them a little preview about what they're going to be learning about. It also gives in this bottom slide, if you can see that, kind of a walkthrough of this is what you need to look for. This is what you need to press. These are the buttons. And it has all of the notes on the bottom of the presentation for you as the teacher so that you know what the slide is referring to and you don't have to do any prep work beforehand. You can just download this and go. And then it also walks them through how to sign up for your class and everything like that. Just make it as easy as possible for them to jump into either this game or Banzai for the first time. Those can be found in the teacher toolkit. Actually, why don't I show you guys where that is since we have this open. So this is in the student view right now. If I'm in the teacher view, I can just jump back over here. So this is what it looks like when you log in. I have a lot of Mallory Bigler's classes. You jump into the toolkit and then game kickoff slides is where all of those are located. You can also search specifically if you wanted to find stock market and you can find that there. So there's that. We also have some articles like we did before, specifically focused, or like we talked about before, specifically focused on the stock market. We've got this one, Stock Market 101, that introduces sort of the basics of the stock market, what a bid is, what an ask is, how the stock market works, how you make money on the stock market. It's your very introductory level. And these could be helpful to go through before the game to help them get the idea, or if you want them to kind of dive into the game, it's meant to work either way. So that can be their first introduction to it, or it can be kind of the capstone
Or
in your stock market
supplemental
section.
information.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So we've got Stock Market 101. We've got Understanding the Condition of the Stock Market, which goes over, some of those ways that you can understand how the stock market's going and different things going on. So bear and bull market, indexes, things like that. And then finally, we have types of investments. That's going to talk about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, things like that.
We have some questions about how you can access those.
Oh, yes. Let me show you. So if I go back to the student view, which I can do by hitting preview all courses, all of the articles are available already within this. So I just clicked on high school personal finance. And then if I scroll all the way down here, we've got the library here. So this has all the articles in it. We've got Understanding the Stock Market here, types of investments, and then Stock Market 101 is up there. Students also have access to all of the worksheets. I'm going to talk about a worksheet that goes with those articles here, so I can just show you here. Investing, it's available right there. They can download it themselves. You also have access to that if you would prefer to download it and send them to them directly in the toolkit. Again, you can just click on worksheets. You can search investing, I think it's called. Yep, investment terms. And yeah, you can download it that way and send it to them, or they can download it themselves, whichever you would prefer. So yes, like I mentioned, to go along with those articles, we also have this investment terms worksheet. So throughout those 3 articles, there's a bunch of investment terms and their definitions sprinkled in. So this allows them to go through and find them, search them all, make sure that they're understanding. And then this page 2 to it is sort of a way that you can take that and make it a little bit more gamey and fun if you would like. It turns it into kind of a bingo. So they get to put all of those terms in each of the squares, and then you as the teacher would read off the definition, and then they get to cross it off. And then if they did it right, obviously, or if they get a bingo, they, yell out bingo or come up with something silly if you want. Yes, and then they'll have to, make sure that they actually got it right and picked the right term. So that's just kind of a fun way. It can be good for a review, it can be good for an introduction, but yeah. That is, so yes, those were the stock market articles and then the investment terms worksheet. That is kind of all of the stuff we had about stock market specifically. There's been a lot of good questions. Thank you guys so much for those. We've had Natalie jumping in there, answering a bunch of them. But if you have anything else while you're going through it, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We did have a question about, do you collect student emails? When students sign up, they don't have to put in an email. They just need to put in a name and your class code, which you will get when you create it. Sorry, my brain is blanking, but yes, we comply with all we comply with all privacy policy stuff. All the terms are leaving my brain at this exact moment. But yes, you can see our privacy policy. We can give you a bunch more information, but no, we do not collect student emails or anything like that. You only need to have them put in a name that you can reference with them. So if you don't even want them to put in their actual name, they can put in their student ID, anything like that. You can assign
them a name to put in there.
And these are really great questions about just Banzai itself. So we actually have these 2 other webinars that really go over, or sorry, 1 other webinar that really goes over Banzai and is a really good introduction to Banzai. That's our Banzai Basics PD session. So that's available there, the left one, if you want to scan that. Again, that's also available on the PD website if you would like to look that up and watch whenever you want. You can also sign up for a demo with our really awesome teacher support team, and they will walk you through everything, personally. They'll answer all of your questions. They're fantastic. So that will take you to a link to sign up for that if you want to get, a little bit more of a personalized introduction or anything like that. Finally, you can get free PD credit for watching this webinar, and we're so glad that you guys all came. So you should receive an email within 24 hours if you're watching this live, and it'll include a link to a short survey, which basically just has you put in, your name, your information, maybe a little bit of feedback about the survey, and then we'll send that to you. If you're watching this video recorded on demand, you can just click the Get Certificate button, which is above me somewhere. Yes, and we would love to connect with you guys. Like we said, Rick wrote 2 of the games in this one. I'm the curriculum lead, so I help decide what we're going to make. And our goal is to make content that will be helpful to you guys. So yeah, please connect with us. We're always available on LinkedIn. If you want to find us, I'm Mallory Bigler, Rick Curtis. Or if you want to just send us an email directly and you're like, hey, I have this brilliant idea. This would be really helpful for me. Please don't hesitate.
Or if there's content we don't cover that you'd like us to cover, let us know. We're always happy to provide the information that teachers want and need.
Yeah, and if you can't remember our emails, that's okay. You can always email support at banzai.org, or we have the little chat button. When you're logged in as a teacher, you can ping our teacher support gals. They're fantastic. They'll get it over to us. Don't worry. So yeah, excuse me. Yes, we would love to connect with you. And again, just another reminder on our socials, if you want to learn more about webinars like this or our other new content as they're released, follow us on social media. That's Teach Banzai on most things, Banzai on Facebook, Banzai Finlit on Pinterest.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Mallory.
Thank you, Rick.
All right.
All right. You guys have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.